Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Muslim Intellect and this is my second video. What I hope to do through my videos is explain Islam to Muslims and non-Muslims and try to clarify it and counter some of the negative media that we've been receiving over the last couple of years, which is really intensifying these days. The topic we'll be discussing today is Islam versus fascism and terrorism, and I want to talk about how, when you use terms like Islamofascism and Islamic terrorism, it's a complete paradox. It's like you're putting two words together that just don't belong together. They don't make sense when they're together. It's like mixing oil with water. It's never going to mix. Concerning terrorism, for example, the definition of terrorism politically is when someone attacks civilians and kills civilians to bring about a political outcome, and how that has no basis, it has no religious basis coming from Islam. And even the people who do it, they can't justify their actions through Islam. They have to use political justification. So based on the whole definition of terrorism, there's no justification or place for it in Islam. Now, in terms of how it's used today, like even the people who carry out those types of attacks, whether they're Muslim or not, what they say is that we're using this method of warfare because that's what's being used against us. We're basically retaliating against other people. It's eye for an eye logic. But in the Quran, it basically says that to forgive someone is even better, than to retaliate against them. And also, if we look at Islamic law, it's very clear on how to conduct warfare. Okay, there are rules for it, and one of the main rules is that you cannot harm innocent civilians during war. For example, during the time of the Prophet, there was a battle against the Quraysh, I believe, and he found the body of a dead woman on the battlefield, and he told his men that killing innocent women and children is forbidden during a war. I mean, this is just very clear. This is all really forbidden in Islam because Islam has the highest standards in every single field, whether it's how to conduct warfare or any other aspect of life. Now the second thing we wanted to discuss is fascism, for example. If you look at the definition of fascism from during Hitler's era or the Nazi era, it was more of a racial fascism. That the Aryan race is supreme over all other races. So if you use that definition, there's no basis for it in Islam, because according to our teachings, an Arab is not better than a non-Arab, or vice versa, and a white is not better than a black, or vice versa. The Prophet taught that the only difference between any human being, it's not social difference, it's not a racial difference, it's just in their piety and their belief in God. Okay, so the closer they are to God, that's the only thing that differentiates between people. And it's not something that people have the right to decide, that I'm better than you, because no one knows what's in anyone else's heart, that's between them and God. So it really throws out that whole argument that, there is such thing as racial fascism in Islam. Now, I've also heard this other argument that, based on ideology, that, Muslims are fascists just because they believe their systems are better than others. But if you use that definition, then that would mean that everyone's a fascist. Okay, that means if in the West someone says that democracy and free market capitalism is better than any other system, isn't that fascist as well? So what if a Muslim says that my Islamic worldview and the Islamic laws, I believe they're better than any other system? Does that mean they're a fascist simply because they believe that? At some point, everyone has to believe in some ideology. okay, unless you have no ideology, which very few people do. So I'm just trying to say that we shouldn't use that definition, and if we do, then everyone's can be categorized the same way. But if we're using the World War II, definition from Nazi Germany, then I can argue that there's no basis for that among us Muslims. So I hope that I've clarified this topic, and I hope we can have a good discussion based on this. Thank you very much to my audience for listening, and Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you.